Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and an honour to be here. I come here with a slight degree of trepidation, being a mere banker. My colleague who runs our French business found himself coming across to Canary Wharf for a routine meeting a few months back. He took the train, got himself into St Pancras, got into a cab and found himself being driven by one of those rather chatty London cab drivers towards Canary Wharf, who spent most of the journey cussing and swearing about politicians, about the media, and inevitably about bankers, and finally turned to my colleague and said, "Well, what do you do?" And he replied, "I'm in fashion." Not. So far as the financial sector is concerned, I'm acutely aware of the challenges that the business community have faced in getting financing support in the last couple or 3 years. I also know how strong financial markets lie at the heart of every successful economy, lubricating the engine of growth and prosperity. The current debate about banking reform is therefore critical to the future of our economy, and it is one that we must get right. What we have to do is carefully calibrate the impact of the various measures under discussion on our fragile Western economies. There are some delicate judgments to be made about detailed implementation and timing if we're to collectively avoid putting the macroeconomy at risk and creating a new credit crunch, which would, of course, if it happened, hit hardest those who can least afford it, first-time buyers and, in particular, SMEs. Change also has to be internationally coordinated. What set this crisis apart from its predecessors in human history was the degree of interconnectedness resulting from our changing and increasingly globalised economy. There is actually no more striking evidence of this change than the way in which the Western world is now engaging, indeed having to engage, on an equal footing with countries such as China and India, and as Martin just reminded us now, other countries such as Brazil, south of here. This is a shift from west to east. It's an increasing prominence for the south as well. We need a clear commitment from whoever is taking government forward to provide supportive conditions so that British business can play its role in broadening the sectoral base of the British economy in areas where we do have competitive advantage, such as, Martin mentioned some of them just now, the creative industries, high technology areas, medical health, education. There are a whole number of areas where we have clear global competitive advantages. More than most, leaders in the banking sector need to demonstrate that they recognise the moral dimension of what has been happening in the years leading up to the crisis. It's clear that for too many people, there was a greedy focus on the short term. I'm in no doubt that investors and traders have often put pressure on boards and managements, pressure they should have resisted, but they didn't, to pursue such short-term strategies and profits. The result of yielding to that pressure is now plain to see in the failed institutions, the broken businesses, and the loss of public trust. This wasn't something just confined to the banks, but nonetheless, the banks clearly need to address this question. And so, in conclusion, in just over a week, we'll know the result of a general election. How our political leaders respond to the challenges of rebalancing our economy will not only shape the future for every business here in the UK, but could mark the very turning point of our country's economic future, making this year, 2010, a truly pivotal year. Meanwhile, of course, the daily challenges for business leaders of navigating a fragile recovery remain considerable. And for us, the banks in particular, the task of rebuilding trust is all important. But in the wake of the crisis, the financial services industry now has another chance, I believe, to prove that it has an essential contribution to make in successful economic and social development.